Hey everyone, in this video we will discuss what fascism is and what are some of its defining characteristics. We will see how those apply to the Indian context today under the BJP. So let's get right into it. What is fascism? Fascism is a very complex ideology that exalts the nation or race above the individual. Some people describe it as a mass movement, a political philosophy that is characterized by a sense of hypernationalism, an extreme sense of nationalism, which in the case of India is Hindu nationalism, that is stemming from an ideology known as Hindutva. When we think of the word fascism, we think of the Italian and the German Nazi regimes that came to power right after World War I. In the 21st century, many experts are warning people about a number of governments across the world heading in the direction of fascism. Is India one such government that is heading towards this fascist idea? Is Prime Minister Modi a fascist? Well, to answer these questions, one must really understand what are some characteristics, what are the things that really identify a fascist individual, and what are some things that identify a fascist regime. Scholars have done studies on this topic and they have come up with several characteristics that define fascism. We will discuss some of those characteristics in this video. Number one is hypernationalism. Under fascism, there is a sense of nationalism that is portrayed that is very extreme, and they put a very narrow definition to nationalism. And anyone that does not conform to their definition of nationalism is deemed anti-national. So think of this in the Indian context today, right? If you see the rallying around the cows, right, the Gau Rakshak or the cow protectors, anyone that says something or has a different opinion on that is right away declared as anti-national. If you come out and say something, whether it's right or wrong, nobody cares. But if you say something that in their understanding favors Pakistan or has something to do with, going against the government statement, then you're right away deemed anti-national. So as long as you do not oppose, you're fine. Once you start opposing, you're deemed to be anti-national. So this narrow definition of nationalism is what is kind of seen in many fascist regimes. Adolf Hitler is known for his hatred towards a minority community in his country. He did not want the Jews in his country, and as history is a witness, he was prepared to take any means possible to get rid of them from the country. This ideology of Hindutva, which is propagated by an organization known as RSS, of which Prime Minister Modi, is a lifetime member of, also propagates something similar. They believe that India is only for Hindus. So, as some of the recent events have shown, they are prepared to take any means possible to make that happen. Whether you think about the riots that have recently happened in Delhi, where the government officials just turned a blind eye. In many occasions, the police was even complicit and they even supported the mob attacks against the Muslims. I mean, if there is anything that defines fascism, if there is anything that defines hatred or shows the hatred towards minorities of a country, especially Muslims, this event clearly demonstrates that. And this is something that also happened in Germany many years ago, and we all know how that ended. So on this front of hypernationalism, India is definitely a check for the pattern that was shown by Hitler and his Germany. The second characteristics that scholars have said many fascist regimes have is militarism. Fascist leaders are known to kind of overpraise their military. They are known to glorify or lionize the military through false propaganda. And if we apply that to some recent events, this becomes very clear with Prime Minister Modi and his party. Prime Minister Modi, on many occasions, has called his opposition party as being weak in this regard, and he somehow portrays himself as being very strong in terms of like military action. Even recently, he has done something like that with the recent attacks during election time. So he's using and manipulating the emotions of people by showing the strong sense of militaristic attitude, and just trying to appease voters. Number three, promise of a golden age. Leaders under fascist regimes rally people by using this concept. They promise them to bring back the days of glory, the days of the past where their country or their society or their people were so strong and so powerful that they dictated terms to other people. This is something they try to show. And Prime Minister Modi has done the same thing in his election campaign. He talked about achhe din, meaning good old days or good days. And we are all waiting to see when those good days start. But that is something that has been seen throughout, fascist individuals and their language. It is really unfortunate that in India, the life of minorities is actually less valuable than the life of a cow. Just look at the events that have happened, the lynchings, the attacks. People just alleged that they're carrying beef when there was no evidence. This guy named Muhammad Akhlaq, they just announced from the temple that he has meat in his house, or he just consumed beef, and without any proof, the mob just shows up at his doorstep and they beat him up so bad that this person dies. And what happens after that? Nothing. Have the people that have committed these crimes been properly punished? The answer is no. If you look at the riots in Delhi that have happened, right? What is unfortunate is that not only these leaders, but all the police was complicit in this. They actually supported the mob against the attacks on humans, on men and women, children. They've helped them beat them up. They've helped them burn their houses, their businesses, their livelihood. All of this was done under the very eye of the force that is meant to protect all. And I could give more examples, but this one is very clear, and BJP and Modi's government is horrible in this regard. Point number 5, identification of enemies as a unifying cause. What do I mean by that? Fascist regimes have to create an enemy, at times both internally and externally, and rally the majority around it. In the case of India, this enemy within, or these foreigners within, as they would like to call, are the Muslims. They have used rhetoric like these foreigners, referring to Muslims of India who have lived in the country for hundreds of years, if not more. So the two main things that the BJP uses to rally people for their own advantage is Muslims and the country of Pakistan. These are the two main things that drives the politics of the BJP, and they're using these things to brainwash the majority of people. People who do not understand listen to this rhetoric and fall prey to this, unfortunately. So the common people of India, the sensible people of India, need to think about these things and question themselves as to why this kind of rhetoric is being used by the leader of the country. Number 6, controlled mass media. The Indian media is also being controlled. I mean, I kind of discussed this with Amnesty International, but even journalists, they have been attacked, they have been threatened, they have been forced to resign their jobs because they chose to, withhold ethics in their profession. They chose to speak the truth. They chose to write the truth of what they are seeing. And when they started writing about the kind of atrocities that were happening against Muslims, it clearly did not go well with the government, and they took all means possible to curb that, to shut that down. So it is no secret that under BJP and under fascist regimes, media is controlled. In conclusion, in this video we have seen what fascism is and what are some of its defining characteristics. We have seen examples of all those characteristics being applied to India as it is run by the BJP today. What do you guys think? Is India a fascist state? Is it semi-fascist? What do I think? I think India is, at the very least, a semi-fascist state heading towards full-blown fascism under the BJP. Where are the voices that want a diverse and pluralistic India in which all people are considered equal? All people have the equal privileges and not just the Hindus. Where is the Indian nationalism that we would be so proud of? Why is that being replaced with extreme Hindu nationalism that is ruining the image of India around the world? I really hope and pray that this chapter, this rule of the BJP, is forgotten in the history books. I really hope and pray that this is a chapter that will soon end, and I pray for the families of the victims that have suffered under this horrible rule. God willing, this chapter of the BJP will end soon, and soon India will have relief.